for us.
Oh, gotcha. I missed that. I don't really monitor that Slack. I got so many goddamn Slack channels.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. I have like 6 or 7 different Slack organizations that I follow.
Right.
Not ideal.
It's too much.
So yeah, I guess I kind of a brief update. This is kind of where we're at right now. We went through and got most of these covered. Jeff, I think there's a few that we said, we're going to channel our inner Jeff and try to have like good legal language around, but we still need your help.
Okay. Those the blue
So like
one?
one of them, yeah, the blue ones here, we want to kind of go back and talk a little bit about. So one of the things that we had talked about changing is was like types of assessors.
Yeah.
So we went ahead and talked about adding this third-party Boolean indicating
Right. I
if
remember that.
you're, yep. And then we had like this type that we put in there was like self, independent, or maybe it was like self-assessed. We said, hey, let's drop that and put that into maybe a future version of the spec if we find that it's necessary.
Okay, so we're just going to go with like you're either third party or you're not.
Yeah, and then we have like organization, which is like a default type.
Yeah.
They'll say like, a lot of this information. So our thought was as well, that probably covers a lot of the same information.
Right. The entity the assessor is empowered to speak on behalf of. Is it just who they're affiliated with? Like, or the assessor is, I guess it is really what they're speaking for. It's like, I'm the assessor and I'm issuing this statement on behalf of EY.
Exactly. That was our thought, but it just sounded a little weird to say it.
Is it just the organization that's issuing the attestation? Like the assessor is the organization, right? So, I mean, yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's pretty obvious what's intended there. Nobody's going to mess that up. The only thing that's like bugging me is that it's that they're empowered to speak on behalf of, and they don't have like a general right to speech. They just have like a right to issue an assessment on behalf of that organization.
Entity.
That's why it's messed up trying to rewrite it.
Yeah.
It's just the entity issuing the assessment.
Okay. Entity issuing.
Because when you write assessor the way it was before, it's like the assessor is an individual working for the organization, but we don't actually have like the name. It's not a person. The assessor is not a person. It's an organization. By the way, that says the entity.
Yep.
So I think this is better.
Okay.
Okay.
This is another one where we were saying, what's our inner Jeff and not repeating the words that are just the name of the thing.
Right. I think confidence score would be better than score of confidence. The claim. Can I look at that for a second? What's the difference between? Oh, there is the confidence is just the score and the rationale put together, right?
Correct. So something we had put a little effort into breaking out was like conformance.
Yeah.
Is now a score and a rationale, and confidence is a score and a rationale. So what is your conformance? X percentage of my developers done their training, performance, the confidence in that might be 100% because we have an
Right.
automated system for tracking it.
Yeah. Right. So confidence here is really confidence range. It's a uncertainty zone around the metric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I think we had this comment here
Not that I think
for,
anybody's going to be able to generate accurate data there.
yeah.
I mean, what are you really going to put? I tested for SQL injection. I don't know. Probably 80%, I think is good. How sure am I? I don't know. It's plus or minus 40.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see maybe when stuff starts coming out to see if there's any metrics around this being used. Definitely optional for the time being.
Yeah. Is there something that'll flag all the optional ones as optional?
I think that's when we start generating like the nice
Yeah.
site. This can be easiest to see there. I think there is.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody asks, I think it's good that we put this here as a, we're trying to drive the industry towards more automated scores, more metrics, more like, more data-driven kind of approach to AppSec. So yeah, we built it in. That's what do we call this? Attestation is all about. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we had a just gonna sound again weird on like the target as the
Oh,
noun
right.
choice.
We need to have some word for what's being assessed. I kind of like target, but that's
Okay.
I might be like biased by just old standards that were like common criteria and stuff like that. In pen tests, people talk about the scope, like it has to be in scope. In NIST terminology, you'd call it the system. Like Ron Ross is like really big about defining the system boundary and stuff. I don't know. I think as long is that the only place we use that term? Like there must be somewhere else in here, right? Like up at the top.
Just above it.
Okay. The bomb ref to a target representing a specific system.
So yeah, and so then yeah, we have a list of targets down here at the bottom.
Yeah, I think I like it. I mean, if
Okay.
I had to vote, I'd vote for target. I'm open to other terms, but that makes sense to me.
I do not remember this, but I'm guessing Steve put that in there for himself. Yeah.
I don't understand that note too well. Make this extensible. Oh, is it a list of types of evidence? And then we want to make it an extensible list.
Yeah, so maybe this is where there's the conversation around like documents. And maybe he was talking about making this a document type, so you could specify your own list of types. My feature. I'm just guessing though.
Yeah. I mean, I always think of like the best evidence is direct measured evidence against something, like you actually measured it. Like your example, we got the test scores and here's the average, like whatever. That's like direct evidence. But there's an awful lot of security is done on indirect evidence. Like, well, I don't know, we used we used a certain process to build it. it doesn't tell you anything about what actually got built, but it's saying the process that built it was good. It's like a
Sure.
level remove. So there's like process evidence, there's people evidence, like we hired good people, we did background checks. And then there's tool evidence, like about the tools that you use to do something. Not it's like, oh, we used I don't know, Veracode or something.
Mhm.
And it doesn't it's evidence about that and not about the application itself. So like I love direct evidence because frankly I don't put any credence in any people, process, or technology evidence. If
Sure.
it's not actually measuring the thing itself, I really don't give a shit. Steve said it was good,
Yeah.
but I don't know how that fits into this.
Yeah, I think I don't know. We'll have to circle back around to Steve.
We might, like in the next one down from where you're at,
Mhm.
we might say like a written description of what this evidence is and how it was created. We might say like, exactly what that evidence, like you got to connect it back to maybe we have that here somewhere. Is there like a rationale for this evidence? Like, how does it support the claim? Oh, that's that reasoning bit, right? A written explanation of why the evidence provided substantiates the claim. Okay, so that'll probably get there. Because it's going to be real fuzzy if it's like people, process, or technology evidence and not like direct measurement of the thing.
Yeah. And that's what I dislike about what we're doing in some ways, because to your point, it's not going to be machine readable to have like reasoning. It's going to be good for someone who's maybe reading through it, but it's not going to help. And hence there, I think conformance really is going to be the key metrics that we're going to have to try to maybe audit against whenever I start looking at these things, seeing what they are.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, most of the arguments that people make for security are not concrete metrics. Like they're not facts. They're like, I don't know. Well, we ran a tool and we did a pen test, so therefore we've covered SQL injection. Did you?
Yeah.
Like, did you check every query? God damn it! And I guess we're going to have to support that kind of soft argument, unfortunately, because just people like we don't have formal proof of security for anything. So like,
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's going to undermine the goal here if you have to go through and like read all this shit.
The
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that, Manoj.
Oh, looks like we lost them.
Oh yeah, that was quick.
So I think this is kind of like where we begin to leave off. I think like a list of evidence is probably
Oh, I see. It
reasonable.
says the name of it there. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's bad in that particular instance because evidence is not a controversial word.
Yeah. Should probably put something in for.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. You sound much better.
Can you hear us?
Yep, I can.
All right.
All right, finally. All right. So the example which Jeff was just mentioning, there's a qualitative part and there's a quantitative part. So the qualitative being, okay, I ran a tool. The quantitative part being the coverage, which he's just saying, did you run it on all the APIs, right? Do we want to distinguish that? Like, do we want description to be the qualitative part and data to be the quantitative part of the evidence? Is that how we want to define it?
I think we're kind of leaving it open here, whether a particular piece of evidence is quantitative or qualitative. We're not forcing people to, and you may not be able to produce both for one piece of evidence.
Yep.
In my example, actually, like I wasn't saying, the thing that you counted as quantitative, like, did I run it on all the APIs, was not what I was suggesting. Actually, I was saying, did you actually check all the queries? And that's not something that most security tools will tell you, right? Like you can't get that from SAST or DAST, for instance, because they won't tell you. Maybe they should. But I think we're leaving it kind of open that you can describe the evidence, and then the data. This is just like is this a reference to something, or is it the actual data? Like,
So it can be either.
Yeah.
This is, I think it's become common in 1.5. So you can actually have like base64 encoded like data as
Oh, right.
contents, as like this attachment, or as a URL. So it can be like
Gotcha.
raw data.
So this data is really just a pointer to or it's to the actual evidence, right? Like this is I'm trying to figure out words to describe this without using the word evidence. Like this is the output or analysis that actually supports the claim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be multiple claims, right?
Oh no, that's good. Okay.
Is it the URL to where the data, or just the URL where the data can be retrieved? Is URL a thing that you go to? The URL to where the data can be retrieved, or the URL where the data can be retrieved?
Yeah. The
I don't know.
URL where.
It's preference. What's wrong with date or time? What's the
These
time?
are just they're blue just because they're new fields that no one's looked at.
Oh, I
A
see.
lot
I
of these
like
black
those
ones were.
descriptions. Like they're fine.
All right, so this is where we were saying, like, it's kind of, right, there's a list of targets, and a target can be a list of organizations, contacts, components, services.
Hmm.
So this was like a discussion we
How do
had
you
early
make claims
on.
against contacts? What does that mean? Like Steve is a tall person?
Maybe if
Like,
you need like
or is
an
this more
officer,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
like an officer of the company needs to sign something. So the target may be the person who does the signing, and you're gonna attest with evidence of the signed thing. That'd be the only situation I can think of. Like a standard requires something to be done by a specific individual in the company. They would
Oh,
be
I
the
was
target.
thinking maybe this was more like Steve is certified iOS developer or something, and
Yeah,
that's
that
a
too.
claim that then supports stuff. Okay, so I get that. That's a claim about a list of contacts which claims are made against.
And should that be contacts or individuals? Like, contacts seem like if you have organization, then a primary person to contact for that organization.
It's people, right? We're talking about people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd vote for people rather than contacts,
Okay.
but I'm not really stuck on it. Yeah.
Excuse the everywhere in here. I'll go back and change that.
I'm
Do we have
fine with
any?
these definitions.
Okay.
I don't know what that last thing is.
Yeah.
It's a declaration, affirmation. Is it just is this like a text description of the affirmation? Like, this certifies that that this target, like word perfect 3.1 has been tested thoroughly for vulnerabilities or something like that's like, it's just a one-liner text description of the overall attestation.
Yeah. That's probably a good way to look at it. That's full. Spec.
You pulling up the spec?
Yeah, if I can find it. Text. Yeah. So here's the example. I certified to the best of my knowledge, all information is correct.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So yeah. Right. Okay. So that's the actual, we should make that attestation statement.
Affirmation statement.
Yeah.
Change that over.
I mean, run that up the flagpole. Oh, I was thinking instead of text. I see what you're saying. I was just going to call it the attestation statement instead of the text. It's like, that's the thing that people actually sign. I don't know. It's just a thought. But then and then we need we need a description of it.
Yeah, I don't think this entire item we just didn't really have like that. The text, signatories, name, role, or an external reference. So I think we need to expand this entire item.
Yeah, so this is a brief statement affirming that the assessor has verified all the claims and evidence noted herein or something like that.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back like in machine readable. Like none of this is going to be. I don't even know what I would do with this, other than like pass it on to some sort of report.
Well, this is something that the lawyers can rely on. It is machine readable because you don't have to ever interpret it. Like it's just.
Oh, that's fair. So what do we want to call this?
I would say, a brief statement that. We want the right. Affirming that the assessor, or attesting that the assessor, maybe it's affirming that the assessor has verified the claims and evidence in this attestation.
So I think in the scope right now, where do we have it in scope of this? It is at the same level as declarations.
I don't know what that means.
So I guess what I'd say is it would be a statement of the overall position of the attestations, the
So
evidence.
the whole document, right?
Yes.
Well, say that of this entire attestation or something. What do we call the whole thing?
It's within the declarations scope.
So are we saying that this is the assessor has are we saying they verified them, or
Is
well, the assessor is
pre-statement.
willing to attest to all of the declarations made here, right?
I'd say maybe affirmed by an individual. 'Cause I don't think we have it set up right now with organizations. It's purely
Okay, so affirmed by an
signatories.
individual. Um, regarding the declarations, regarding all the declarations here.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it could be a statement that says like, like I'm, it yeah, it could, I mean, you wouldn't have to say that you believe all the attestations here, but you could be affirming that they're sufficient for your needs.
Yeah.
But like, well, I don't know, I don't believe it all, but it's good enough. I'll accept it.
Well, that's an interesting use case. That it could be a statement of acceptance by a receiving party. Like whoever received it and reviewed it. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, we might want to capture that somehow here. It could be like, I don't know if you put like,
I'd always there's enough.
Would this be a place where the auditor or the third party, neutral third party can affirm the claims of the statements, saying all this evidence provided by X company, I attest to all the claims made in this document or made by them in this ref.
it could do that. I think we're saying that's a very strong statement to make.
Mhm.
You could also say that I accept this is as these attestations as being good enough for my purposes. I don't, you don't have to affirm that they're all correct. You're just saying like, okay, it's good enough. It's not perfect, but it's good enough.
Right. So it could be an acceptance of a standard, right? So meeting a certain standard. Is that also like one of the possible things is to match these evidence to one of our standards and say, yes, this is good enough and it's meeting that standard. Is that
you like I said, you could use it for that purpose, but
okay? We are just keeping it open. It's just,
yeah, that's right. We're just saying this is any statement regarding the
right.
declarations made here. I suppose you could attest to the fact that they're all nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
And then the next set is it's currently missing, so we can go back and add it. But it's that signatories who are affirming that text. So name, role, or signature, and our external ref to like maybe a PDF.
Yeah, there's a question at the bottom, like, is an organization needed for the signatures? Isn't that the organization we started with up top? Like I think we called it organization.
I don't I feel like they're different. I think it's an example where one group may make this, and then an example of like a third party comes in and is going to make some statement in support like of it. Those could be different organizations.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is not something that we had in our example. So if it's something that we think we should add here as an organization. Because we talk about role, we don't talk about like the organization for which you were in.
Yeah. All right. What else we got?
That's it. Those.
All right. Good. Was there anything else we want to cover on the call today?
I don't think so. I think that's just minor updates. I was at the Secure Open Source Software Summit last week with a lot of people from CISA and DHS and a whole bunch of other places. So I brought up this work again in front of those folks, kind of reiterating this, that they definitely seem interested in seeing that happen. And then there's a fairly small summit that's happening in October. That's being put together by Jason Weiss, who's like a former DoD chief software officer. And it's specifically on this work. It is about attestations.
The words compliance as code.
I did not.
I really think we should.
Reaction.
I think it's cool, and it kind of, I mean, it's like a trendy way of talking about it, because this is boring shit.
Yeah.
Like, but if we want to get people interested, like compliance as code, like they may think like, oh, wait a minute, that sounds better than regular compliance.
I mentioned SSDF and compliance in the same sentence, and I'm pretty sure that the CISA folks like literally like threw a book at me through their laptops. They very quickly jumped on me and said, "Oh no, you don't show compliance to a framework. That's not what the intent is." But at the same time, though, you're an officer of your company is going to have to sign the self-attestation form that says that you're in compliance with SSDF. So it's interesting.
Right, well, they can think whatever they want, but
yeah,
isn't that kind of the essence of compliance? Like they have to attest to the fact that they met a set of requirements. I know SSDF is a framework; it's kind of high level, but they're attesting that they did it. I mean, shit, HIPAA is way freaking more high level than SSDF. And that's compliant, HIPAA compliance. That's like a whole, like,
oh yeah.
All right. Well, they're just off their rockers.
I think it's a legality thing of them putting themselves in a situation where they then are responsible for managing compliance.
Yeah. Okay. I'm happy to have that fight someday.
Yeah. I just brought up more as like there's two touch points that I'm aware of. I think Steve is invited, but is not going to attend this kind of DoD attestation discussion. But it's very specifically on this stuff. This is why at least I got invited, and I think Steve did too. It's
cool.
Around showing like SSDF compliance using something like this.
Yeah.
Are you making any presentation, or is there something like, are you doing any, or do you need help?
I don't think so, not for this. Okay. That being said, though, there is like an RFI that's out from the government right now on like, where do they want to go going forward with open source software? And so like we're mentioning this as part of our response, my employer's response.
Sure.
And then I think we'll probably, at least for me, I'm interested in targeting something like the Cloud Native Security Conference. That's probably going to be in February for some conference talks on this.
Okay.
So I guess that'd be a question would be is like, what what does like the evangelization of this
Yep.
look like?
Yep.
I know that there's a blog post that Steve mentioned that OWASP is working towards on this.
Mm-hmm.
But then what's the next step after that?
Right. So I'm part of the OWASP PNW chapter, and our next conference is in June of next year. So yeah, I mean that this could be one of those useful talks for the PNW folks. Or like we do Vancouver, Canada, plus Seattle, plus Portland, or that's a major city, but like Washington, Oregon, and BC area. So that's one place. I think there's OWASP SF conference as well for the California folks.
Okay.
So yeah, these are some of the venues we can try. And I mean, I'm plugged in on the PNW, so I can help at least on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the spec is getting fleshed out pretty quickly. I know Steve has mentioned getting like a user guide created and starting to work on some of that content. So I think I'm happy to help out with that. And then, yeah, I think the longer term vision is like, how do we then get this capability out in front of people? I think if we can get it like CISA talking about it a lot, self-attestation forums, I think that, at least to me in my industry, that's going to be pretty critical.
Yeah. Do we have contacts there, or I'm pure, like I'm not super.
Yeah, I talk to the folks at CISA regularly.
Okay.
And a lot of them, CISA has like, I wouldn't say vacuumed up, but they have brought in some very good open source folks. Like Ava Black, who was on the technical advisory council for committee for OpenSSF, just got hired by CISA, and she's leading. Yeah, they're leading a team, and there's a few other folks that are like that. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about?
See y'all.
All right. Talk to you later.
Great being all after a couple of months.
Yeah, no worries.
See y'all.
See ya.